Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got a deep dive today that I think is going to be super helpful for any of you out there getting ready for the UPSC exams.
Absolutely.
We're going to be looking really closely at the ASER report for 2024.
Yes.
You could think of it kind of like a big checkup
Right.
on how rural education is doing in India.
Yeah.
The Hindustan Times published it recently, and I'm telling you, the stuff we're about to uncover, I think is going to be so valuable, whether you're prepping for the mains or the prelims.
It really is. And, this report is really amazing for getting a snapshot of where education is at right now in India.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a huge e-data set.
Right.
Over 649,000 children.
Wow.
Almost 18,000 villages.
Wow.
It's massive.
There's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Yeah, let's get into it.
The report kicks off talking about pre-primary education, and right away there's this trend that jumps out at you. Enrollment is booming,
It is.
especially for those littlest learners, the 3-year-olds.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about that is it shows that parents and communities are really starting to understand just how important early childhood development really is.
Right.
All the research shows that those early years, they really set the stage for how kids learn later on.
Oh, absolutely.
And while Anganwadi centers are still the main places kids are going for, pre-primary,
Right.
we're also seeing a lot more private preschools popping up.
That makes me wonder, though, are we going to start to see like a gap emerge, between families who can afford those private preschools and those who can't?
Yeah.
And what does that mean, like, down the road, for those kids' education?
Definitely. And this is a question that often comes up, with the UPSC mains exams.
Right.
Because it's not a simple issue. It's something that could have repercussions for years and years to come.
Exactly. It's complex.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just about numbers.
Right.
And, that complexity continues when you look at elementary education.
Yeah.
So overall enrollment in elementary school, it's actually dipped a little bit. But there's this big shift that's happening. Government schools are losing students,
Yes.
and they're going to private schools.
Exactly.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's probably a bunch of different things all mixed together.
Yeah.
But one of the big ideas is this idea of school choice.
Okay.
As more and more private schools open up, parents have more choices for where to send their kids.
That's right.
And that can be good because it can make schools compete with each other to get better.
Yeah.
But it can also make things more unequal.
Right.
Because if the best education is only available to families who have a lot of money, well, that's not fair. That's something that comes up a lot in development economics.
Yeah.
And it's something UPSC students should definitely be ready to talk about.
That tension between, choice and making sure everyone gets a good education.
Exactly.
Really important point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about who's going to school.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what they're learning.
Right. Let's get into learning outcomes.
And there is some good news here.
There is.
Arithmetic skills are actually getting better,
They are.
especially in government schools.
Yeah.
So something's working there, right?
It seems like it. And, this could mean that some of the recent changes to the math curriculum and the way we train math teachers,
Okay.
they might be starting to have a real impact.
That's what we want to see, right?
Yeah, this is a good example of how if you make smart changes, you can really see a difference.
Yeah, targeted interventions.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, so math is looking up.
Yeah.
What about reading?
Well, that's where things get a little bit tricky.
Oh.
Reading skills are lagging behind, and in a lot of states, they still haven't even gotten back to where they were before the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah, we've got this learning gap.
Yeah. And, that brings up another big idea that we hear a lot about:
What's that?
learning loss,
Mm-hmm.
especially when something like a pandemic comes along and disrupts everything.
Yeah.
People are talking about this all over the world, policymakers, education experts, everyone.
Absolutely, and for good reason.
Right.
We have to figure out what the long-term effects of this learning loss are going to be.
Yeah.
Because it could affect how well kids do in school later on.
Right.
And that could even have an impact on the country's economy.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. The report says that almost all of the older kids,
Okay.
the ones between 14 and 16,
Yeah.
they have smartphones now,
Wow.
which is a huge change from just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it just shows how fast technology is changing things in India.
And, that means there's this massive opportunity to use technology to make education better.
Especially in rural areas.
Right, where it can be hard to get traditional resources like books and teachers.
Exactly. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Oh.
We have to think about things like the digital divide. Not everyone has equal access.
Yeah.
And what about kids spending too much time staring at screens?
Right. Screen time is a big concern these days.
It is.
Yeah.
And we also have to make sure that kids know how to use technology safely and responsibly.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just hand them a phone.
Right. We need to teach them how to be good digital citizens.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of digital literacy comes in.
Yeah. What exactly does that mean?
So when we say digital literacy, we're not just talking about knowing how to use a smartphone
Oh, yeah.
or how to get online.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that.
So break it down for us.
It's about being able to think critically about the information you see online.
Okay.
It's about understanding how to protect your privacy.
Uh-huh.
It's about knowing how to stay safe online.
Yeah.
And basically, it's about being able to use technology in a way that's effective and ethical and responsible.
That's a great definition.
And it's becoming more and more important these days. I mean, it's not just for education anymore.
Right.
It's for everything.
It is.
Civic participation, economic opportunity, even just connecting with other people.
I bet the ASER report has some interesting things to say about how well we're doing at teaching digital literacy to young people in rural India.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I'm curious to hear about that.
We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Okay, cool.
But first, let's step inside the schools themselves,
Okay.
because the report has some good news here.
Oh, good.
Both students and teachers are showing up more often.
Oh, that's great. Attendance is so important.
It is, consistent attendance. That's really the foundation for effective learning.
It shows that both the students and the teachers are invested.
Exactly. And it creates a more stable environment for everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about hitting the books either.
What else is going on?
There's been an increase in what they call non-textbook reading.
Oh, that's interesting.
So kids are reading novels and stories and all kinds of other stuff.
That's fantastic.
I know, right? A little more fun mixed in with the academics.
Yeah, it shows that they're starting to enjoy reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
Which is so important for developing a love of learning.
And it helps with comprehension skills, too.
Exactly.
So it's all good.
Well, not entirely.
Oh, here we go.
There are still some problems that just won't go away.
Like what?
Like infrastructure.
Hmm.
We're still talking about schools that don't have basic facilities. Toilets, drinking water playgrounds even.
Are we really investing in our kids' future if we can't even provide them with these basic things?
That's a really good question.
It's a question that our policymakers need to answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so UPSC folks, listen up.
Here we go.
This is where the report gets really, really relevant.
Okay.
It highlights the fact that educational outcomes can be totally different.
Right.
Depending on which state you're looking at.
Yeah, and that's really important for understanding how complicated education policy is in India.
Right.
It's not just one big system.
Right.
It's like 28 different experiments.
28 different laboratories of education.
Exactly. Each state has its own unique situation, its own challenges, its own opportunities. And you can see that in the data.
Give us an example.
Well, for instance, the report shows that in some states, reading levels are shooting up. But in other states, they've actually gone down.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's really different depending on where you look.
So fascinating.
It is.
Why do you think that is? What's driving those differences?
That is the million-dollar question, and we're going to dive into that right after this break. It's really fascinating stuff, right?
It is. So it sounds like we've got some good news and some not so good news.
Yeah, say so.
Pre-primary enrollments are up. Arithmetic skills are looking better.
Uh-huh.
And kids are reading more stuff outside of their textbooks.
Right.
But then we've got reading skills that are still lagging behind.
Yeah.
And this shift toward private schools, that raises some tough questions about fairness.
Definitely.
And of course, we can't forget about those infrastructure problems.
Right. Those are still a big issue.
Yeah, it seems like we're seeing progress.
Uh-huh.
But there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and like you said, those differences from state to state, they show that there's no magic bullet.
No one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly.
We need solutions that are tailored to each state's unique context.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before the break, we were starting to talk about digital literacy.
Right, right.
And I think this is something that's just becoming more and more important.
Oh, absolutely. In this day and age, you can't just ignore it.
You really can't.
Yeah.
It's not just about reading and writing anymore.
No, it's not.
In a world where technology is everywhere, digital literacy is becoming like a basic skill.
I agree. It's fundamental.
Like we were saying earlier, almost every older kid in rural India has a smartphone now.
It's amazing how quickly things have changed.
It really is.
And like I said before, this could be a game changer for education.
Yeah.
But it also comes with some challenges.
Right. So we need to make sure that kids know how to use all this technology safely and responsibly.
Absolutely.
We can't just give them the smartphone and say, good luck.
Right. We need to teach them how to use it in a way that benefits them.
Exactly. And how to avoid the pitfalls.
Yes. It's about empowering them to be smart and responsible digital citizens.
So what does the ASER report tell us about how well we're doing with this whole digital literacy thing?
Well, the good news is that most of the kids they surveyed knew how to do basic things on a smartphone.
Like,
Setting an alarm, browsing the internet, stuff like that.
okay, so they're comfortable with the technology itself.
Yeah, they know how to use it.
But what about those deeper aspects of digital literacy?
Yeah, the stuff we were talking about before, like critical thinking and online safety.
Exactly. Like, how do you know if the information you're seeing online is accurate?
Or how do you protect your privacy?
Right. Or what do you do if someone's bullying you online?
Those are really important skills.
They are. And that's where the report starts to show some gaps.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of kids said they use their smartphones for learning,
That's good.
which is great. But a lot of them also said they spend a lot of time on social media.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Not really. But when it came to things like digital safety and privacy, the results were a little bit worrying.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. So only about half of the kids knew how to make their social media profiles private.
Wow.
And even fewer knew how to block or report something that was inappropriate.
Or how to spot fake news.
Yeah,
So they're tech savvy, but not necessarily digitally literate.
exactly. And that could lead to some serious problems down the road.
It could, and this is why it's so important to start teaching digital literacy in schools.
We need to make it part of the curriculum.
Absolutely. It's not just about teaching them how to use a computer or a smartphone.
Right.
It's about giving them the skills they need to be safe and responsible online.
And that's not just an education issue either, right?
No, this is bigger than that.
This is about society as a whole.
It is, think about it, a population that's digitally literate.
Yeah.
That's what's going to drive innovation and economic growth.
All connected.
Yeah, this is something that anyone who's interested in policy analysis needs to be thinking about.
Especially those UPSC aspirants out there.
Absolutely. This is right up their alley.
So this ASER report, it's really giving us a complete picture of what's happening with education in rural India.
It is?
The good, the bad, and everything in between.
Yeah, it's not just about statistics. It's
Yes.
about real kids, real lives.
Yeah, these are hundreds of thousands of individual stories.
Each one with its own hopes and dreams.
And we need to remember that.
We do.
This is about more than just numbers.
It is.
It's about making sure that every child in India has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
I like that.
And that brings us back to the question we asked earlier.
The million-dollar question.
If you were in charge of education policy, what would you focus on?
That's a good one.
What are the most important things we've learned from this report?
What are the solutions?
Exactly. And UPSC folks, remember, this is the kind of question you might see on the mains exam.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So take some time to think about what we've discussed.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways?
What are your ideas?
Because your insights and your solutions are what's going to shape the future of education in India.
Well said.
It's a lot to think about, isn't it?
It really is.
We've gone from, pre-primary all the way to digital literacy.
And everything in between.
It seems like there's no easy answer when it comes to, fixing education in India.
No quick fixes.
No fixes.
No.
But the more we understand the details,
Uh-huh.
the more we look at the data and the stories behind the data,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to, figure out a way forward.
I agree. And that's why I think this deep dive has been so helpful for anyone who's, thinking about taking the UPSC exams.
Absolutely.
The ASER report, it's not just a bunch of numbers.
No, it's not.
It's like a guidebook
Yeah.
for understanding what's working and what's not working in Indian education.
And it helps you think about how to make things better.
Exactly. And those are exactly the kind of skills that the UPSC examiners are looking for.
They don't just want you to memorize facts and figures.
No, they don't.
They want you to show that you can understand complex issues,
Yeah.
that you can think critically,
Yeah.
and that you can come up with solutions.
Right. And the ASR report, it's like a case study.
Yeah.
It's perfect for practicing those skills.
So as you're studying for the UPSC, keep all of this in mind.
Okay.
Think about those differences between states, the digital divide,
Yeah.
the importance of early childhood education,
Absolutely.
the need for better infrastructure,
Right.
and how technology is changing everything.
All important stuff.
It is. And these are themes that you're going to see popping up all over the place,
Yeah.
both in the prelims and the mains.
For sure.
And don't forget to think about how all of this connects to bigger ideas, social justice, economic development,
Right.
the progress of the nation as a whole.
It's all connected.
Because at the end of the day, that's what education is all about.
What's that?
Empowering people, helping them reach their full potential,
I like that.
and building a better future for everyone.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
This has been a really great deep dive.
It has. I've learned a lot.
I hope you all have too.
Me too.
And for those of you who are getting ready for the UPSC, I encourage you to, really dig into this ASER report.
Yeah.
Explore the data. Come to your own conclusions.
Because your ideas.
Your ideas are what's going to shape the future of education in India,
Who knows? Maybe someday you'll be the ones writing the policies.
based on the insights that you've gleaned from reports like this.
Exactly.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up today's deep dive.
Sounds good.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives on all sorts of important topics,
Especially if you're studying for the UPSC.
especially if you're studying for the UPSC.
Yeah.
And a huge thanks to the Hindustan Times for their amazing coverage of the ASER 2024 report.
They did a great job.
So until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.